All right, so we're back, and today we're going to talk a little bit about investment properties. What that looks like, how that should look like, um, and what you should expect as far as the outcome for owning an investment property. So I will start off by saying that I myself have owned investment properties. The most recent, it was a buy and sell. Buy, hold, sell is what I call it. So I bought it, held on to it for about a year. Hardly put any work into it at all outside of rewiring the weatherhead for the power to get turned on. And I turned around and sold the property for how much did I sell it for? I sold it for $50,000 profit. And honestly, it was a good learning experience for me. I thought a little bit about it, and I was like, you know what? This sucks because I know quite a few people that have investment properties, and their investment properties are paying for their everyday life, right? So gas, food, rent, covering all three everyday essentials for the people that I do know, just off maintaining their investment properties. A couple of them have single families mixed in with duplexes, and another friend of mine has only duplexes actually. So that's something to think about and consider as well. That when you buy these investment properties, it's not necessarily about having something to fall back on, but it is also about building up a wealth system that helps you financially right now. Okay, and we'll go into that a little bit here in a moment. I just want to stress the fact that it's important to gather all of the proper information when it comes to buying investment properties. You have to do that. You have to. You have to understand when going into these properties what type of work is needed. Okay? How much is the energy bill? How much is the taxes? What is the amount I can get out monthly out of this property in rents? Okay, and then you also have to think about expenses such as maintenance, repairs, and if it's a large enough property, you have to think about property management essentially. Okay, a lot of people get these properties, 10 or more units, and they can manage them all themselves, right? I don't need a property manager. It's an extra expense, which, I mean, I get it, right? But it's all about keeping things smooth selling and reducing the liability when it comes to your name and your ownership. That is important. Reducing the liability when it comes to your name and your ownership. If you put in place a property management team, that property management team can handle everything as it pertains to that property. That's collecting rents, that's making sure that if anyone moves out, they got new people lined up to move in. That's doing monthly, semi-annual, or annual inspections on the units. That's scheduling vendors or hiring a maintenance staff depending on how large the property is, right? And the reason this is vital is because we have lives, right? And sometimes we tend to drift away and get caught up in our lives, and I'm not going to say forget about, but neglect our responsibilities when it comes to these properties, which opens the doors up to lawsuits. So it is extremely important, again, to get yourself a property management team. Allow them to handle all of that good stuff. I call it the good stuff because it's stuff that keeps you out of trouble, but it's not necessarily the good stuff. And just to give you an example, so I know a guy who owned several properties, faced pretty extensive lawsuit as it relates to mold and heat. Okay, these things are important, and if they go unnoticed or if they go uncared for, then you run into a major problem. And that's why this conversation today is primarily surrounding setting yourself up when it comes to investment properties to where you can't lose. Okay, you're making the money. Add that extra expense to reduce a major, colossal expense later. It becomes dangerous when you become greedy. Okay, and the reason I say that is because it's too easy. It's entirely too easy to become greedy and allow for yourself to get consumed by the I'll do it laters, or that really doesn't matter. Okay, the number one thing that I've always stressed to people, and this was included in property management. So I've been in property management for about 15 years. And every maintenance tech, every property manager, every leasing agent, every assistant property manager, regional property manager, regional maintenance coordinator or maintenance director, vice presidents even, and assistant VPs. I've told them these properties should be ran as if you are living in them yourself. And the reason being is the moment you run into somebody that's similar to yourself, who demands a high quality living environment, is the moment you essentially lose all control. And the reason I say that is because that person will stop at nothing to get what they feel they deserve. And if they're not getting what they feel they deserve, you run into a colossal problem. Okay? Allow people to live the right way. That's the way I look at it. And the way you do that is, again, property management, property maintenance, and let them take care of the property. Do, I don't know, depending on how comfortable you are with the management team, check-ins with them every so often. How's it going? Let me look at these reports. Let me look at these reports. And then, again, this is depending on the size of the property. Get you a compliance team. Get you a compliance team that will catch an error that your property management team may not have seen. Okay? Or hire a property management team that has a built-in compliance portion of it. And a good way to track things such as maintenance, repairs, expenditures. They have apps similar to Resman. Resman is a software that property management companies use to track rents, maintenance requests, completed and uncompleted. It also tracks other expenditures too, big ticket items, and things of that sort. And I believe in some applications like Resman, you should be able to utilize it as a time stamp to kind of clock in and clock out. These things are made readily available to make your life easier when it comes to owning investment properties. If we were to downsize and kind of backtrack a little bit, we can look at opportunities like 3-unit properties, 2-unit properties, or just a single family property. for an investment property, you don't have to start out large, right? That's how you bite off more than you can chew. You choke and you die. Okay? You don't want to bite off more than you can chew. You only want to do what you are able to do. If you do not do what you're able to do, then you will quickly find out this is a lot more than what I bargained for. You know, and you'll end up in all type of stuff. And I'm trying not to use expletives during this podcast, but you'll end up in a lot. And this here is a precautionary message to you to don't bite off more than you can chew. Okay? But yeah, so we're scaling back to 3 families, duplexes, or single family homes. Those are also profitable, extremely profitable. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of times you as a landlord of properties like that, you can live at that property and you actually open yourself up to quite a few tax breaks, okay, which is beneficial to you. I won't get too much into it. My recommendation is talk to a tax preparer and see what the options are, right? But yeah, you can definitely unlock a lot of tax breaks living in that property that you are also renting out to a renter. I recommend starting out with duplexes, single family homes. And once you do it, don't outright sell it if you decide, okay, you know what, I want a larger property, okay? If you own those properties fee clear, you don't owe a mortgage, all you owe is taxes, then my suggestion to you would be 1031 exchange it into a larger property. Sorry, I got messages and things coming through here. Nothing pressing, but yeah. So you want to make sure that you are saving yourself as much money and taxes as possible. A lot of people pick on billionaires for how they pay so minimal in taxes, but the reason why they pay so little in taxes is because they've unlocked those tax breaks. Right? Whether it be doing things like 1031 exchanges or even filing bankruptcy, like that's a thing too, which is something for a whole nother podcast we won't talk about today. But they understand the tax system. They have someone on their team that understands the tax system and it utilizes it to their advantage. Okay? So I'll talk a little bit about the 1031 exchange, then we'll get back to the duplexes, the 3 families, and the single families. So 1031 exchange is basically where you take the equity or capital from a property, right? And instead of selling that property outright, you transfer the monies from that property and you invest it into another property, okay? The reason this is beneficial is because states have capital gains tax, okay? If you don't know what capital gains tax is, it essentially means if you made more than what you paid for the property when you sell the property in a certain span of time, you could be liable for capital gains tax, which tends to get a lot of people because a lot of people aren't well versed in it, and I get it. But why give away money? Okay? Why give away money if you don't have to? What you should do is talk to a lender. I recommend a lender that is well versed on investment properties. and figure out options as it relates to 1031 exchanges. And then once you establish that, go talk to your tax preparer and have the same conversation and figure out what your options are. Okay? And I recommend that because a lot of times investors, if they invest and have bought 1, 2, or 3 properties, the likelihood they will buy another is really high. Okay? It's really high. So why give all that money away when the way to avoid giving away that additional money during taxes is something you plan on doing anyway, which is buying more properties. Take that equity from that property, invest it into another property, boom, you avoid taxes on the money that you made from the prior property. Okay? I don't know how else to say that. I don't know how I can stress it, but that is extremely important when it comes to leveling up your portfolio. And it took me a while even to understand the importance of a 1031 exchange. Okay? It is important, extremely important. So yeah, that's the 1031 exchange aspect of it. But yeah, when it comes to getting started, a lot of people say, oh, don't buy a single family home. Don't buy duplexes. Get you 4 units or more. Okay, but what if you don't have the financing for 4 units or more? Do you just ponder around for the next several years until you can afford 4 units, a 4-unit property or more? No, that's ridiculous. It's completely absurd. If your desire is to own larger properties and you don't want to own a single family, if you can manage to get a deal on a single family home, go in and flip that property, make the necessary repairs, and make out with an additional 50, 60 grand, which is challenging now, or better. And the reason why I say it's challenging now is because everybody's a flipper, everybody's an investor, which I also think is absurd because, yeah, that's another story. But yeah, that's the goal. With the things that you don't want, you buy them. Make the necessary upgrades, you sell them. You don't want it. But don't miss out on opportunity because you're being stubborn. Okay? Buying a property like that single family, going in making repairs, flipping it, and making an additional $60, $70, $80, $90,000. Again, one of my properties I made 50 grand off of and did nothing to it. Right? For a whole year I just held on to it. Did absolutely nothing to it, found somebody who desired it, maybe thought he was getting over on me, probably still does. But I made 50 grand. I am okay with that. Because if I made the repairs, it would have cost me $100,000. And this is logic too, you have to think. If I made the repairs, it would have cost me $100,000 to make the repairs. And then I only could sell the place for about $160,000, $180,000, and you make out with the same amount of money, if not less, depending on what type of problems you run into, without all of the stress and a headache if you just had held on to it and let it sit. They call it appreciation, but I don't know if I'll use that term in this scenario because it's not really appreciation, it's desirability. Okay, in some places, a lot of people are like, oh no, I wouldn't buy there, and we steer away from it because we've heard all the fear, and that would have happened to me on this deal, but I decided to still move forward and buy the property and made out with 50 grand additional. So yeah, that's just something to think about on the stuff that you don't want, right? Buy it, make the money, 1031 exchange it into something you do want, get the money out of that, decide how you want to proceed, And now they got different loans too, like DSCR loans, which I think is fantastic if you can really unlock it and learn how to use it. But yeah, you decide what you want to do with that property, build up the rents on that, pay off your mortgage, or whatever you need to do, or take out an additional loan against the property, put that into another property, okay? And don't be afraid of it. So, and this is me being vulnerable. So I was one of those people that was fearful of debt, right? Fearful, absolutely fearful. But that's because I was ignorant. I didn't know. When you look at a lot of these larger companies, they all have debt. They're worth billions of dollars, but their debt is in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Their debt, okay? Just think about that. Allow for that to set in. Their debt's hundreds of millions, and they're worth billions of dollars. And they're doing well, right? Do not be afraid of debt. If you're afraid of debt, then you're afraid of progression, which is a deeper problem than what we're able to talk about here. And maybe you should click away and seek counseling. Because I can't teach you progression. I can only teach you what I know, right? And that is that real estate constantly goes up. And the best way to unlock real estate is by making the first move. Whether, like I said, whether it's single family, duplex, 3-family, if you got the freaking money to buy a 50 unit, 100 unit property, do it. Make the investment. But also understand that there are other expenses that need to be thought out too. And aside from that, you need a team. That's just it, you know. And I've seen a lot of these properties too. I went and had a meeting with a property management company, and this will be the end of it, by the way. But I had a meeting with a property management company a few months ago, and they were just taking over a property, okay? This property management company was ill-prepared, completely ill-prepared, okay? It was chaotic. The staff had quit. The maintenance supervisor quit, a maintenance technician quit, property manager quit. That's the main part of your team. The leadership that's on site all quit, okay? Which is a problem. They was not prepared for that scenario. So here's the regional trying to figure out what the hell is he going to do. He's all over the place. Couldn't really be professional because his mind had so much going on, he didn't know how to deal with it, okay? In my opinion, that is a troubled asset at that point because so much can go wrong, right? You lose the leadership at the property, so much could go wrong. And then they were fresh to this property. They were new to it. So they weren't familiar with what had taken place over the past several years. And that's where they ran into problems. So you have to do your due diligence and prepare for the worst when you're buying these properties. You have to prepare for the worst because you don't want to get in a situation where you're like that, scrambling, trying to figure it out, and running away all the people who wish to help you figure it out because it's so damn chaotic. Okay? Make smart decisions, be prepared, and move accordingly. Okay? So I'll leave you all off on that today. I've talked well into, 25 minutes here. And gave you the best spill I can on investment properties and just readiness. Readiness and scaling up. The most important thing when it comes to investment properties. So yeah, I wish you all good luck, and yeah, keep fighting the good fight, investors.